I think because one of my sort of primary passions is like power dynamics and like the ways that groups and people interact with each other. Um, I always sort of, whenever I saw someone who was successful, I would sort of like analyze their constituent parts, like what got them there. And whenever if I did that in like the diplomacy field, I would see, oh, these people had connections. They knew somebody who wanted them to be where they were. And in my head, I'm like, okay, well, I don't have that. So, success, I'm not really sure what that's going to look like for me or if it's possible because this is the way that it's been done and I don't have this thing. And so when I looked in sort of design and strategy, um, the situation was sort of similar that, like people are building like their own thing, absolutely. But like chances are like they were mentored by somebody famous, or like they knew someone who knew someone who was famous, or like somebody famous saw a thing that they did and was like, yeah, like that's great. So they had proximity to people who were already successful. And that was not a thing that I saw for myself. Um, like when I started NoviWorks, I didn't know anyone except for like this one friend, and she was operating in like a very specific niche and like had her success because in this hyper specific place, she was the one that the big nonprofits went to. Like that was her thing, and she knew one person from one giant nonprofit, and that sort of started the whole thing. And so I didn't really have that proximity to, people who are successful in my field. And so I was sort of like, okay, so if we're going to make this binary, it's either I succeed or I don't succeed. And success has looked like this. And so that means that I'm going to have to figure out something else, or I'm just going to sort of stay mediocre. And I hate mediocrity. And so I spent all of my energy trying to figure out a way around it. Um, but there's still always that part of you that's sort of like, you're like, are you the one who's gonna find the way to like do this without the things that you've observed other people having? Like, really, it's gonna be you. Um, and so like even as I was like searching and trying to like make that work, I still had that in the back of my head. And then the boot camp happened. And I was sort of like, okay, so like there are people here who are successful. Like Melinda is like right there, like just all of these things. And I was like, okay, like, what do I do with this? This is so cool. But as I was leaving the boot camp, I was like, okay, I feel equipped to do this. I don't really know that I'm really connected to anyone. This is before I'd started reaching out to you, Melinda, and was like, I have questions. And you were like, of course, Chloe. So like in my head, I was sort of like, okay, this is one and done. And this is a great experience. Maybe I should have leveraged it better, but I don't know what that should have looked like. Um, I have all these tools. Maybe this is gonna be the thing that sort of like gets me on the, up top. Um, and then like kept, piddling about and like overthinking things too much, obviously. And yeah, I don't know, like just very gently started reaching out to the both of you about like, okay, I have this question. Is it like, am I asking too much of your time for this? And like then realizing that people were like, no, like I'd love to, hear you out or like hear your question, like I'd love to. And me sort of just being like, really? Oh, okay. So so I think that was sort of the initial um mindset shift. But like I just thought that people who were doing well would be too busy doing well to have time to help someone who was, somewhere behind them. And so then I discovered that that's not the case, and I'm like, oh, okay. And I'm still always sort of like, I don't want to be a nuisance. Like this is a thing I have to probably break myself up, but it's still a thing that I have where I'm like, you know. Um, So I think the next mind shift definitely came. Um, I think it definitely came after I started working my way through the new material in the boot camp. Especially the sales call. I know I keep telling you I'm in love with that sales call stuff, but I'm really in love with that sales call stuff. Um, because up until that point, I wasn't really sure how to demonstrate my worth in the small amount of time that I had. And I was sort of tired of telling people or trying to find ways to explain the thing I did in a way that was enticing. Like I was really tired of doing that and it wasn't super successful. And so once I looked at this sales call and sort of mastered it, that's when the next mind shift happened, where I was like, oh, this is what it's like to show. I'm always like, show, don't tell. Like, you do that in writing, you do that in life. And so sort of finally having the tools to show a little bit, and then also knowing that like I had you and Nick as resources that I could reach out to be like, so this happened, I'm not really sure what to make of it, was just amazing. And so that mind shift was more sort of, like it's not like it's not the different parts of my process that I'm selling. Like, it's not the exercises that I'm selling. This is something I'm sure Nick remembers being pretty frustrated by, maybe, when I'd be like, oh, I'm selling, like I'm selling all these exercises. And he'd be like, what? No. Why? And I'd be like, oh, because, people will see all the stuff that they get. And like, maybe that'll make them pay more. And he was just like, no, it's wrong, Chloe. And so that was sort of the mindset shift that happened, that I was just sort of like, oh, okay. Like, sure, part of it is the process of how I do things, and I'm like really selling the way that my mind works and like the way that I can take someone from point A to point B. And whatever tools I use to do that, like, it doesn't really matter, and they're going to shift and change as I grow and do more research and like discover more about myself. But like, really, it's like I'm selling the way that my mind works, and some people really like the way that my mind works and the insights I'm able to pull out myself, and some people will be like, nah, I don't get it. And like, for those people, I'm just sort of like, cool, here's this other strategist. And so that was the second mindset shift that happened. And then and then a biz friend that I made online through one of the many courses that I had joined and dissected and like moved on from, referred two clients to me. She the first person was somebody that her sister was working for, and they were looking for somebody to like do websites, right? And this is what she knows me for, websites and brand strategy. And so she asked me, hey, do you do WordPress websites? And I'm like, sure. I do all the things. And she was like, cool, I'm gonna give your name to my sister, who's gonna give it to this person. And then maybe a week after, she's part of this club thing, and she was like, hey, I just gave your name to like this other person who was asking for someone who did web stuff in this thing, right? And she's like a luxury marketing expert. So like the people that she's sending me are like pretty, exactly. I was like, oh, okay, fancy. And so when I got on these calls with these people, I was already very confident in my sales call game, right? Because I'd already mastered it. I'd had the mindset shift. And so honestly, and you know what's funny? In like the little questionnaire, like the tiny questionnaire that they filled out where I had them like check boxes of things that they want, they all sort of started talking about like, oh yeah, I need help with a website. And then it just sort of devolved into like, and lots of things. There's so many things I don't have clarity on. Please help. And I feel like my website helped with that, because I was like, sure, I could do your website, but there's other things that's going to help you out here, right? And so when they realized that was something I could do, that's when they were like, okay, yes, this, but also really all of these things. And so when I got on my calls with these people, all I had to do was sort of focus on, okay, so what is it that you actually need? How do we get you clarity? Like, I see that this is the problem that you're having. I can't really prescribe solutions for you right now, but like, it sounds like here are some things that you need, right? And both of them were like, yes, that sounds wonderful. um, Send me a proposal. And it was the first, in these two conversations, it was the first time that I'd said that strategy would be anywhere from 10K to 5K. I was sort of hedged by going down to 3K because like I was kind of scared. But when I talked to these people, I was like, yeah, 10K to 5K for strategy, you know, as you do. And when both of them were like, cool, okay. I was like, okay, okay, cool, 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 cool. Um, and so I sent out my proposals. One of them, she was like, okay, so this seems like a little expensive for now. Can we start with like a smaller project? And I was like, that's cool. And I sort of broke down the project a little further. So we started off with a smaller bite. And that was still like 5K, you know? And then this other person was just like, cool, could you give me some like definitely unofficial, but like ideas of where other phases of this project will go, just so I can anchor myself. And I was like, yeah, sure. Just know like it's super preliminary and like I like it might be higher, it might be lower, I can't really say. As soon as I did that, they were like, cool, approved, awesome. And it was like that moment when they were like, yeah, cool, approved. And they were like on Instagram DMs. They were just like, cool, I just approved it. And I was just like, huh, what? What? And then that was the energy with which I messaged you. And I was like, this is happening, Melinda, it's happening. So yeah. And the final analysis, was I wrong about like the success thing? No, but I think that I was wrong about the sort of access that I believed I deserved or would get. Um, and so that's been also one of the more rewarding things. Um, Sort of breaking my own sort of programming about what, you know, someone like me can get. Programming that I didn't even realize I had because, you know, I'm in the business of tearing down that stuff and like looking into it and like, not me, you know? And so having that fully broken down has also been like huge. The trajectory I was on before boot camp and the two of you, and the trajectory I am on boot camp and after is just like it's exponential. My I fully believe that I can make six figures in my life. Like I fully believe that because of this new trajectory I'm on. And I was looking at my old notes and like some of the prices I had for this stuff and like the way I was like subdividing, like, ooh, if I add this exercise and it's this price, like just looking at that stuff and seeing like I was trying to charge how much for what? Like that just seems crazy to me now. Um, but that definitely would not have happened. I like wouldn't have expanded in this way without the two of you. So thank you so much. If there's anything that I can do, please let me know.